the biggest changes to me is the willingness of Amazon to share data points. It's crazy. Some data points that you had to pay Amazon $20,000 a year to get, now all of a sudden it's just available to everybody with brand registry. On the other side, like the biggest TOS changes was the incentivized reviews. People had their whole strategy based on getting 0 to 100 reviews completely legally, search, find, buy, and two-step URLs. We always knew that eventually they might change the rules for that. And they actually did it. Pretty much everybody knows that, hey, it's not worth the risk anymore. What I think a lot of people are doing more aggressive PPC and working on the listing optimization. That's why
Leron Hirschkorn, your host of the E-commerce Mindset Podcast. I just finished my talk with Bradley Sutton, had a great conversation. We spoke about how he's seen the evolution in the last several years since he's been with Helium, how the product launch has changed, what he's currently seeing in the market in terms of product launch. We spoke about US international expansion and some of the opportunities there, as well as some of the new data points that actually Helium has on their tool under the elite data points, including the event that's coming up that Helium 10 is doing in September later this year, and a little bit more about that. The podcast, as always, is sponsored by Incrementum Digital, the marketing agency that I founded that helps sellers and brands scale their business through the power of Amazon advertising and optimization of listings, as well as running some outside traffic into Amazon, as well as by 8Fig. 8Fig is a company that I'm an advisor to that helps sellers with growth capital, as well as some supply chain planning technology. If you are suffering from that cash flow crunch where you're selling and you need more money for inventory and marketing, and you want to make sure you don't go out of stock and scale your business, check out 8fig.co and enjoy this conversation with Bradley Sutton of Helium 10. Is your official title with Helium brand evangelist, or what is
director of training and chief evangelist? Little religious title right there, but they explained the background. I was like, what in the world is this? But I guess it was somebody at Apple who made up that term 15 years ago. I think Kawasaki. And then when I understood the behind, it's like, yeah, that's kind of what I do. I guess I'm spreading the gospel of Helium 10 around.
Yeah, it's been a long time now. How long now have you been with Helium?
In just a little bit, it'll be 4 years now.
Wow, and it's amazing. Probably the transformation, right, that you've seen both in this industry and in the company. How many people were there when you showed up 4 years ago, and what does it look like today?
Probably worldwide, we had like maybe 30 people. And then we, though, in the US, we were just a small office in a WeWork. We were working out of a WeWork, and there was like 10, 12 of us. And now we've got about 150 in the US and about 320 worldwide. So it's kind of crazy. We just had the Prosper show, and then I'm seeing people with Helium 10 shirts. I'm like, you work for Helium 10? Like, oh, nice to meet you. Right. It was never like that before, but it's the company has grown, and then just the industry as a whole. You didn't know what the word aggregator meant, like 4 years ago, and then now that's a thing. And then there's people who I used to know were like Helium 10 affiliates, and they were just starting to sell on Amazon. Another like 7 and 8 figure sellers. It's just crazy to see how many things have changed in the last few years.
Right. What do you, from your perspective, like, what do you think are those like biggest changes, over the last 4 years in this space, like from your perspective, and for a seller, for a new seller entering the market, and you came with experience. You were working for a brand before, right? Helping them launch a ton of products. I think in the beauty space.
I was in the beauty space and the supplement space. And then even before then, it was like in the cell phone, the cliche cell phone space. But I mean, as far as Amazon goes, the three major things that stick out. I mean, obviously, we know something on Amazon changes every week, whether it's hey, we got a 1% price hike, or we got this rule change or something, right? But the biggest changes to me, first of all, a general one, is the willingness of Amazon to share data points. I mean, it's crazy. Like brand analytics was huge. That was something that sometimes, like even vendors before didn't have full access to, but then a lot of the stuff that only if you had like a vendor central account, you could see, whether it be on the PPC side or some data points that you had to pay Amazon like $20,000 a year to get. Now all of a sudden it's just available to everybody with brand registry. And then it seems like every week they're releasing new data points, whether it's especially on the PPC side. I mean, you probably know more about it than me, but I'm like, whoa, this is like super cool that they're showing this because it allows sellers to make better decisions. And then product opportunity explorer and search a query page and just like all this wonderful stuff. It's really great that Amazon is opening this data up. So I really love that, because from Amazon, 4 years ago, there was not much, you had your
Right.
PPC reports and that's about it
Right.
as far as
Right.
data goes. But on the other side, like the biggest probably like TOS changes to me, years ago, it was the incentivized reviews. So
Right.
many people had their whole strategy based on like, hey, I'm getting 0 to 100 reviews completely legally, by doing
Right.
incentivized reviews, which is
Right.
totally fine. And
Right.
then of course, search, find, buy, and two-step URLs last year. I mean, we always knew that eventually they might change the rules for that, and everybody would say that, but they actually did it. So
Right.
that was kind of a big change as well.
And yeah, I mean, and it's interesting. Do you think it's a certain like philosophical shift? Because we always thought like Amazon won't share search volume directly because they don't want to essentially allow their competitors to see how much traffic they're getting, on a monthly basis. And it seems like at some point they just said, hey, we're going to open it all up. But I mean,
Yeah, they probably figured there was just so much data out there, and Helium 10, already was showing search volume. Now, remember, they used to show search volume through the API, which was how
right,
Helium 10 even came up with their own algorithm, like years ago, and they just shut that off in 2018. Now,
right,
why that was interesting, like why they shut it off. I don't know why they shut it off, but then after that date, companies like Viral Launch and Helium 10, we just have to kind of like make up our own algorithm based on
right,
that old one and based on new data points to try and estimate it. But they're probably looking at like, like Helium 10's pretty close. Obviously they're not exact, but like why are we holding this back? But it's interesting because I actually just did a big, story and podcast. Uh it's it's unknown exactly what these data points are referring to. Now, of course, it doesn't match up completely with Helium 10 because it's not a official
right,
Amazon data point, but you compare the three things that Amazon has now: brand analytics, product opportunity explorer, and search query performance. And even though it looks like you're comparing apples to apples, it's different numbers. Search volume here on the same exact one is different here. Brand analytics for this exact week, it'll say, hey, this one is searched for more than this time. You look at the
right,
exact same days in another Amazon tool, and it seemingly doesn't completely say it's talking about the same thing, but it looks like it should be, and
right,
it's flipped. So it's like maybe that's their way of still keeping it where nobody can know exactly what
right.
is the search volume and stuff by maybe behind the scenes. This is really referring to something else, but then this is like a different, like a maybe a different browsing scenario or something like that. But for the most part, I mean, there's nothing major like the contradiction, discrepancy. It's still, they're all useful information. I use that stuff myself a lot too.
Yeah. So it's interesting because somebody just like a week or so ago made a post on LinkedIn, and they said, hey, here's the like Amazon data now that we have in the search query performance, which we could talk about, and then here's Helium data. And Helium data seems to, you know, show more search volume than what Amazon is showing.
Yeah.
And one of the comments there, actually, somebody on my team wrote, Mansoor, that perhaps it's because Amazon removes any same searches by the same user over like a 24-hour period, because they know that, and Helium may not know that. So
Yeah. Well, it could, I'm not sure about
yeah,
that, but the first thing is it's kind of apples to oranges. So the search query performance, theoretically, we don't
yeah,
know Amazon's, what exactly Amazon's doing. They don't completely say, but
right,
that's like, hey, this is the searches in this week,
right,
or this month.
right,
But when you see a number in Helium 10, that is based on the old way that Amazon would show their search volume, which they would change it weekly. And it wasn't the exact last 30-day search volume. What it was is, hey, this is kind of like the 30-day, what the velocity would be
mm-hmm.
based on just that week's searches. So like, let's say there was 1,000 searches this week, whatever their algorithm was, it's like, maybe this is 5,000 monthly search volume, you know,
Mhm.
if we were to expand it out. That's why if you were ever to look at the old Amazon search one, you couldn't, it didn't make sense when you take week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. Hey, wait a minute, if this is a rolling previous 30 days, this is like literally mathematically impossible for this to be
Right.
the new number. You know, you can't have less than the previous one. So that's how we're doing it. So like, you know, you can't just take, oh, this is the monthly search volume that Helium 10 says, and then this is what the last 30 days says over here in this tool, because no, ours is based on a velocity. So like, again, it doesn't always match up completely, and you can't just
Right.
add up the numbers. But like I did an example of a coffin shelf, and I think the number in Helium 10 last week was like 5,300 or something.
Mhm.
If you go back 4 weeks, week by week in the search query performance, it'll say like 952 and 980 and 900 and then 1,200. Now
Right.
that doesn't add up to like the 5,000, and it's not
Right.
supposed to, because again, it's apples and oranges. But it was interesting. If you go week by week on the Helium 10 search volume, you know, we had like 5,000, 4,800, you know, 5,100, and then 7,000. But
Mhm.
the core purpose of search volume, either if you regardless if you use either tool, you would have been fine. In search query performance, you would have seen that, hey, 4 weeks ago there was a 20% spike in
Mhm.
searches, and then now it's a little bit down. So first of all, that's not really actionable, but just
Right.
in case it was, you know, that's good to know. In
Right.
Helium 10, you're looking at it, you know, different numbers because it's based on velocity, but it was still been the same. There was 3 weeks where it was almost the same kind of search volume, but then if you look 4 weeks ago, there's like 20% high. So we still were able to detect that, and we're not you know, like search query performance is not available to tool providers, like it's not even
Right.
available in the API. So that was kind of like validation to our data science team, like, oh, okay, you guys were able to to kind of figure it out. You know, it's not gonna
Right.
be exact. Um you know, I've always said, hey, compare Helium 10 to brand analytics. It's not going to be exact,
Right.
but almost like 98% it's going to line up. Like, for example, last week in brand analytics, it says the number 2 search term in all of Amazon. I've never seen this before, super weird. Amazon.co.uk is a search term. If you're looking brand analytics, you're not
That's
going
right.
to see that in Helium 10. Like, I don't know
Right.
what the heck that is, but we couldn't detect, you know, like
Why?
maybe that's an Amazon bug. I don't know, but like, so it's not going to always line up with brand analytics either. But again, it's within the realm of usability, and you could kind of see the accuracy.
Got it. Now, Helium recently has rolled out something called the Elite data. What are some of the additional data points that you're showing there? I think that's available to Elite
Yeah.
subscribers. What are some of the things there that you're showing that's going to be like a value add
Mhm.
for sellers?
Yeah, that's only for the elite members. Here's some old school trivia that maybe only you can
Okay,
remember.
let's
Do you
see.
remember what the elite mastermind group used to be called back in the day?
Wow.
Remember they would go to Hawaii sometimes, and
Yes,
they would
yes, I
have
was
those
there.
retreats.
I was in Hawaii.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you
Uh,
were there. I wasn't even there. That was even before my time.
yeah, I spoke in Hawaii, and I guess the name of that event, right, was
Mhm.
probably the name of the group.
Yep. Starts
But
with the I.
Illuminati.
Yeah, there you go. You got it.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was the old Illuminati group, and then now it became elite, and then we're kind of like bringing it back to the old days in that we didn't want it just to be like a Helium 10 plan. Yes, it is like advanced, you know, now we have Helium 10, but it's like now it's closed most of the year. You know, like right now, if anybody wanted to get in, they couldn't. Doesn't matter how much money they offer. Like, I'm not sure
Yep.
when we're going to open it again. But anyways, we were like, hey, this was actually Kevin King's idea. He was like, let's make some data points just available to these elite members,
Mhm.
and base it off of my, as in Kevin King's, kind of like strategy that he uses for product research, where it really incorporates a lot of brand analytics. Now, at the time, tools still couldn't integrate brand analytics. Now that actually in the last couple of weeks, you know, who knows? I think you're going to see brand analytics in Helium 10, at least for brand registered sellers, because they finally opened it up in the API.
Yeah, it's
You know,
amazing.
but anyways, so how we taught people, say, hey, do what you do in brand analytics, or just however you get your own keywords. But in brand analytics, there's so many cool things you can do, like look for you know, keywords that are increasing or decreasing or have a lot of density, whatever the case is, and then you come up with, like, you know, 100 keywords or whatever that you want to get some deep data on, put it into Elite Analytics, and then we're going to give you some unique data points mixed with the regular Helium 10 data points. So the regular Helium 10 data points, like search volume, we have something new that I don't think anybody has. It's called title density. That was something I really started pushing last year, where I discovered, like, the huge difference it makes just by having a keyword in title or in phrase form in a title, but in a keyword first page where almost nobody else had it in the title. It's like you've got it made if you can find like a high search volume one for that. So like we have that figure, but then we have these new ones like the median review count of the top 12. How many have more than 1,000 reviews in the top 12? The country of origin on page 1. So we'll have it broken down where it's like, hey, it's 56% US sellers, 23% Chinese sellers, 10% German sellers. Like we'll show that. We don't show that anywhere in Helium 10. The listing analyzer score. Before we only do that kind of like on the fly. Like we have this tool called Listing Analyzer. You can enter in an ASIN or a multi-ASINs and get their score. It's not just based on, do they have nice bullet points and title? It's like there's like a million things now that it's based on. So we'll have that predetermined score. And then also the estimated sales by keyword. Search volume is great, but then, sometimes you'll have a high search volume, but maybe not a lot of sales that it generates. And so the data science team has been working on trying to validate that model as far as estimating sales by keyword, and so that's some of the other data that you'll have in that tool as well.
Yeah, so that's great. So you can really, like you said, you can have a high search volume, very broad type keyword that doesn't generate the same level of sales as maybe a 3-word keyword that doesn't have as much search volume, but is more targeted.
Exactly.
That will generate a much higher level of sales. So that is now available to Elite subscribers, but Elite is not currently open. It opens up, I guess.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while because we literally opened it up for a week, maybe at the end of March, and so I would say maybe the next time, I don't know, June, July, people can go get on the wait list and then they'll be contacted. But yeah, probably about June, July, it'll be ready again.
Got it. Okay, great. People should look out for that. Super interesting that data. I think the country of origin is pretty cool because if you're researching a niche and you want to understand like who is my competition, you can make the argument good and bad, right? US sellers are probably better at the marketing side and branding side. And if you're competing against a lot of sellers from China, probably gonna have lower price points and margins to deal with, and bringing in a more expensive, can you compete with the pricing unless you're really creating something premium? So I think that's a super cool feature that should be incorporated into your product research. What have you seen change in terms of launch? Obviously, rebates is something that not supposed to do anymore. I would love to see Amazon take more action against it because I haven't seen Amazon take action against it, but I would love to see it because it creates a little bit more of a level playing field. But sellers are definitely doing less of that. What are you seeing as the main levers? I mean, is it really just sort of listing quality SEO and a more aggressive PPC strategy, or what is kind of your take on what you're seeing from successful product launches?
Yeah, I mean, it's there's still people who will do that stuff, but in the Facebook groups and things like that, you can tell that pretty much everybody knows that, hey, it's not worth the risk anymore. And so even if there is somebody who still thinks it's okay, then you tell them, no, don't do it. And then the companies like Rank Bell and AZ Rank and stuff that used to do those things, they've completely shifted their business model to be in compliance. So what I think is a lot of people are doing is just, like you said, more aggressive PPC and working on the listing, optimization. That's why I just constantly do tests. Like me, people always ask me like, wait a minute, Bradley, your brands are doing over $1 million. Like, why do you still need to work for Helium 10? Well, I probably make a lot less than 10% profit on my brands because all I do is just like pour a bunch of waste so much money doing experiments and stuff, trying to see what's working and not. And one of those things I probably spend the most money on is trying to figure out launches and things like that. And so, what I do personally is I take the concept of the old, be it rebates or search, find, buy, and do it in a complete compliant way through PPC. So I thought about, okay, why is this working? CPR number Helium 10 says, hey, over 5 to 8 days, if you can get this many people to search, find, and buy your keyword, your product from a keyword, it's going to get you to page 1. that hasn't changed. I mean,
Right.
and that still happens. There's people who never knew about what search, find, buy was, but they would still get to page one. Why? Because people just naturally search, find, and buy, the product. So I was like, okay, let me take the concept of that. And then like, what's the psychology with why companies like AZ Rank and Rank Bell and people who did Facebook ads, why did people even just buy products that maybe they wouldn't have? Well, it's because they were probably being offered a rebate or a super discount. So like, okay, it's because it's just like at a price they couldn't refuse. So
Right.
guess what? You can do all of this with PPC. So what I do is when I launch a new product, first of all, of course, I'm actually more focused on listing optimization. Like you said, it's just more important now, especially
Right.
that what's going on in the title. And then also another thing I do is I really make sure that my listing is algorithmically related to the top competitors for those keywords. So like, let's say there's another keyword that somebody is one of the top 3 brand analytics clicked, and I look, what are their other top search volume keywords that they're ranked in the top 5? I'm going to have those keywords in my listing like 2 times, so that from day one, Amazon's like, oh, we don't know about this new listing, but goodness gracious, it's really similar to this one.
Right.
It's probably going to be, relevant to the same buyers as this. I want to make sure that's on day one.
Right.
But then what I'll do is I'll pick like 5 or 6 keywords, just like I did in the old days where I would have used AZ Rank or something.
Right.
And then I'll do like a super high PPC bid, fixed bid.
Yeah.
And then of course I'll turn it on in Helium 10 keyword tracker with boost on, just to make sure that I'm getting, as we all know that, sometimes the suggested bid will be $2. You do $4, it's still not enough. So
Right.
always make sure you are coming up at the top. And then I'll do one of 2 things. I'll either put a sale price on the product. Like, let's say my product is $20. I'll put a sale price or just a ridiculous coupon on there. And I put the product at a price in this first couple of weeks where a buyer off the street, sees it at the top. And of course, by definition, they don't know my brand.
Right.
And there's no reviews. But so that's immediate turnoffs, right? But
Right.
they see this price where it's like, shoot, like I was ready to pay $20 for this, but it's $6. I'll take a chance on this.
Right.
And then you just got to monitor what you're doing. And it's almost the same as like, so, you're checking how many orders a day. Now, this is very tedious nowadays. This part I haven't figured out how to like automate more, but you have to have somebody watching your PPC all day long to make sure you're not getting too many on one keyword, not enough another. And then if you hit your CPR for the day on one, then you got to turn off that bid. You got to be monitoring your inventory. Like me, I actually do this a lot with my fulfilled by merchant SKU, because I have a warehouse in the back of my house. My family is the one who's actually shipping this stuff out. So I know nothing's going to go on slick deals or something, and then I'm going to get wiped out of my inventory. That screws up my campaign because I can control my inventory. But if you're only doing FBA, yeah, you've got to have somebody ready to turn off your inventory if all of a sudden something goes viral and you're getting too many orders. So I've been testing that like for ever since that change happened, like 6 months. And every single time I've done it, any keyword I've wanted to, I've gotten to page one. Now the new test I'm doing is, thanks to all these shipping delays, for one of the Project X coffin shelves, I was out of stock for 4 months. It was ridiculous. The shipment shipped in like the end of December, and I just got it last week. So it's been out of stock. So I want to see like, okay, I would have done a rebate company or a 2-step URL company or something before to get back to page one. Let's see if this PPC method works as well for an old listing. The thing I'm afraid about is what, Casey Gosson has talked about this a lot, is what I think he's the first person who called it this, but has he ever talked to you about the Amazon death spiral?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like, when I first heard him talk about that, I was like, holy crap, now it makes sense, what happened to these other products. But so that's the only thing I'm worried about is if sometimes if you're just out of the game for a while, or you screw something up, it's like almost impossible to return to former glory, as it were. So we'll see.
Yeah, I was having a conversation yesterday with one of our clients about it, and about launches, and he said, yeah, we usually like to test. Like they did a launch with us, it sold well and then went out of stock, and like we usually like to test 300-400 units. I'm like, can't do that. If you go out of stock, it's a killer. You got to be more confident in your launches and get more, get at least 1,000 units, get more inventory, and today probably maybe more, just because of the supply chain challenges that everybody is experiencing. But I agree.
100%.
I think one of the issues for sellers is, they're, I think, too afraid to discount too much, you know? They're like, hey, you know, this is like my product is better quality or this and that, but like nobody knows that
Yeah.
until you have a high amount of reviews touting that really. And I think you know, I heard I was at the Thrashio event in Cabo. One of the sellers said that his strategy is that he launches a product and then about 4 or 5 days in, he'll do a he'll slam a deep discount coupon. So he's sending a signal to the algorithm like, this is the price, $20 is the price first few days, and then like boom, there's a huge price discount, and that also kind of like huge coupon that also sends something into the algorithm a few days in with this like large coupon. And you know, I think the realization that sellers need to have is that, you know, you will lose money
Yep.
in the
Yep.
beginning, and it's maybe a 6 to 12 month journey of losing money on a product today. It's probably one of the biggest differences from 4 or 5 years ago, right? You can launch a product and you didn't have to be in a position where you lost money for 6 months. You know, you could do giveaways, rank,
Yeah.
incentivize reviews, do all this stuff, and you know, be profitable much faster. I think that's probably the biggest change from you know, from today.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you seeing from comparing sort of like launches on the US side versus launches on the um international marketplace? Do you think, you know, would you ever advise a US based seller, they're starting out maybe with, you know, lower budgets, let's say they have, you know, $15,000 between like sourcing a product and launching, not a huge budget. Would you ever say like, hey, maybe you should go to Canada, or maybe you should go to Europe as a first step? There's some challenges there, obviously, in terms of compliance and logistics. But you know, US is getting more competitive. Would you ever say that, or would you say, hey, launching the US anyway, just find a product that, you know, you think you can compete on?
If I'm based in North America, to me it's like 10 out of 10. I'm only going to launch in North America unless I just, you know, now Helium 10 works in like Japan
Yeah,
and Germany and all these other countries. Like maybe I was just doing research in one of those marketplaces and I found some like gold mine idea that wouldn't work in the US, you know, like
right.
I hate USA t-shirt or something, you know, and
Yeah,
for Europe, yeah, maybe launch that in Europe as opposed to, you know, the US. But I would say, you know, if you're in North America, 10 out of 10 launching USA. Now, if you're in Europe, probably at least 5 out of 10 you should still launch in USA, you know, maybe. But if like you're in Germany, like you got to sell in Germany, you know, you've
right,
just got the advantage over all the foreign, including
right,
American, you know,
right.
sellers, you know, with all, you know, logistically and the language and everything else. You sell in your own marketplace. But you know, America still has the most potential. But yeah, competition is a lot less, you know, like Amazon Japan still is, you know, Amazon Japan has been around for years. It's not new
Probably the
like, you know,
biggest
Amazon
barrier to
Sweden.
probably the
Would you say?
biggest barrier to entry, right? Like,
Yeah, the barrier to entry, the language, and then of course you got to have like a local entity, and then you know I've talked to there's a lot of companies that have come up. Like there's this company, I don't know if you know of ZEE from like
yeah,
South
yep,
Africa.
yep,
Yeah, and then they like help people get into these other marketplaces. But guys, you
yeah,
know, don't try and do it on your own. Find these companies who can help you,
yeah,
um, and and do the local research because that, you know, like you just said, there's a lot less competition in these other places, you know, whether it's, you know, PPC clicks is like in some countries like 20-30 cents for like the main keywords and stuff. So but the problem is just the ceiling on most products is not as high,
right,
you know. I could crush the coffin shelf market, I'm sure, in Japan or something like
right,
that, but crushing the competition means selling 1 unit a day or 2 units a day or
right.
something, you know. So you just gotta, you know, but overall, I think the theme that people started moving to, and this is another change in the last 4 years, is diversification of your marketplaces. Not
Mhm.
that you're picking one over the other, but don't be putting all your eggs in one basket. Like how many people got their entire income shut down during COVID because they didn't have any essential product or there was some inventory restriction. And so since 95% of their sales was Amazon USA, now they're not
Yeah,
making income. So diversify, and not just Amazon International, but you know, Walmart, you know, Shopify, Wayfair,
right.
Etsy. If your product's applicable, I say, hey, that's
Yep.
the name of the game in 2022, guys. Go to the marketplaces that make sense.
Yeah. And I mean, would you say there's a certain level of revenue you should get to before you do that? Or do you say, hey, like,
I'm not sure if it's revenue, is more like how established you are. You know, like
Gotcha.
don't start launching other places when you're still in the launch phase in America and you're still
Right.
losing money there
Right.
and things like that. So it's more of, you know, for some people it might take, you know, 3, 4, 5 months. For other people it might take a year, you know, before I would consider yourself, you know, ready. Now, there are some things like Walmart, first of all, they won't even accept you unless you do have some kind of off Walmart established thing. So like, you know, you
Yep.
can't start Walmart the same day or even the same couple first months that you start on Amazon.
Yep.
Um, but other Amazon marketplaces, you technically could, but then you're having to invest more money. You know, you got to send 500 units here and now, you know, 500 units there, and you know that might be too much for you when you're first getting started. But so there's I don't know, there's no magic number as far as time goes, I would say.
What are you seeing? What are you seeing around Walmart? You know, Helium started to obviously pull some data in terms of Walmart, in terms of sales estimates, etc. What are you seeing there? Um, you know, obviously, I think their e-commerce business is growing. Um, what do you see there as far as opportunities? Would you say? I mean, are there certain categories that you see there that are a better fit for sellers to go into?
Yeah.
Um, from the PPC side, from our perspective, it's a little bit clunky. I think they're going to make some changes. So right now it's I guess a first price
Yeah.
auction,
Yeah.
what's called, where, you know, if you bid $1 and somebody else bids 50 cents, you're paying $1. I heard they're going to change that.
I heard too. I heard too. That was just like last week. Somebody said that was gonna change, and then the other thing that was supposedly gonna change, and actually it did, as far as I know. I saw an example of this. Is before it was like you could only show up organically or sponsored, but like not twice. So like it
Yes.
was super weird. You know, or I mean, for at Walmart sellers are like, why is
Yes.
that weird? But for Amazon sellers, that's like, what? You know, like,
Right.
I can only have one spot. But now that changed like a couple of weeks ago, I heard. So they've definitely come a long way. It's like it was impossible to sell in Walmart like 4 or 5 years ago with
Right.
you had to have an API developer and it took like a year to get you know,
On there.
approved and this and that. But Walmart's, you know, I know sellers who are to the point where they actually launch only on Walmart, some products, you know, because they're like, you know what, this doesn't make sense for Amazon. But I'm looking here on Walmart, and there's tons of opportunity here. And you know, like for example, like a garlic press on Amazon is
Right.
so cliche now and completely saturated. But then you look at garlic press on Walmart, it's like, oh shoot, there's actually some room here. But you got to be careful with the searches, because the search um kind of behavior on consumers is completely different. You know, as far we were talking about search volume earlier, on the search volume on the Walmart side, the one that you see in Helium 10, that's Walmart. That's from Walmart
Mhm.
data, 100%,
Gotcha.
like not estimations or anything. So like
Okay.
that is completely on the same level as Walmart. And then you can compare it to Amazon. Like I like showing the collagen peptides, of course,
Right.
but like call it collagen peptides, collagen powder. It's flipped. Which one is more on Walmart? And then, it's kind of like almost like a 10-to-1 on some of them. Like it was 250,000 for collagen powder on Amazon, and it was like 25,000 or something on Walmart. And then it was like something similar to that for some of the other main ones. But then a branded search on Walmart, it was Vital Proteins collagen peptides, was like 8,000, and Amazon 9,000. So, and you'll see that a lot where branded searches have really high search volume compared to the generic ones on Walmart. So like being a known brand is pretty important on Walmart. So you can't take Amazon searches and then say, okay, these are going to be the top keywords on Walmart, or this is how a Walmart buyer um
Right.
you know, searches. Is completely different. But but yeah, to me it's a no-brainer for any established USA Amazon seller. Get started on Walmart. You know, they'll accept you if you're established, and then you've
Right.
got your inventory probably in a 3PL sitting there waiting for
Right.
Amazon. Might as well have them fulfill, you know, Walmart. It doesn't cost
And
too much money, you
yeah.
know, to get started, and it's just, for me, it's just a no-brainer.
And you know, Walmart also has WFS, Walmart Fulfillment Services. Is there any barriers to entry with that, or are they
Not
pretty much?
almost not anymore. Before that was tough. There was almost
Yeah.
nobody in that, because like you had to be personally invited, and it was like
Right.
super hard. But we had the Project X account, which, you know, I guess like it was getting, at the time, it was like getting like 5 sales a month or something.
Right.
Applied for it, got approved like the next day. But the thing I've been preaching for years, like you said, I used to work for a supplement company, 4 or 5 years ago. Walmart brick and mortar is the holy grail. Like if you can get into there, I mean, I with 30 SKUs, we grew their sales when I was working at the supplement company from 1 million to 3 million on Amazon. And I was like, oh my God, I'm the greatest person in the history of the world. Then I would see POs come across the desk for the, just like, okay, here's the Northwest DCs for Walmart. This is how much they want of one SKU. It was like $8 million for one SKU for one PO. I'm like, yeah, Amazon is kind of nothing compared to what if you get a Walmart brick and mortar, just because of how many stores there are, and then each store has to order so many cases and stuff. If you can get into Walmart, so the path is, in my opinion, is crush it somewhere else. Like that company, they crushed it in infomercials first. They weren't on Amazon first. That's how they got known. But for the typical person, nobody's going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on infomercials. You crush it on Amazon. Then it's like, okay, now I can get on Walmart.com as a third-party seller. And then after that, you get kind of like on the radar of the Walmart buyers, so that you do the shipped and fulfilled by Walmart, because that also increases sales, because now you can actually pick this stuff up in Walmart stores and you get same day delivery and all this stuff. And then if you start crushing that, guess what? Now all of a sudden the Walmart brick and mortar buyer is like, hey, what's this product here? And then they'll talk to the .com buyer. Do you think that's going to be something, that would be interesting for the store? And now, you just retire and live the rich, life if you can get into Walmart stores, because that's where the easy money is. But before, like you would have to like have some, it's almost like what's that show where you pitch stuff to like Mark Cuban and
Shark Tank.
Yeah, it's like Shark Tank. It's like they'll pick like 1 out of 1,000 people who go to their Bentonville and give them some cool product. Okay, that'll be good for the store. But no, it's like you get to like skip the line now if you can really start crushing it on Walmart.com.
Yeah, which is an amazing opportunity if like you said, if you can get into Walmart brick and mortar, and you can really diversify your business. Obviously, your business needs to be in a position where you can handle it, POs, financing, all that. But great opportunity to get on Walmart, utilize Walmart fulfillment services, diversify your channels, especially if we think that Walmart's gonna continue to grow and maybe take some more market share. They launch Walmart Plus, etc. Some interesting things that Helium is doing this year is putting on the first kind of big Helium event, scale summit, right?
Sell and Scale Summit in September. I believe it's a September 20th to the 22nd, Virgin Hotel in Vegas. We don't have too many speakers as of, whenever we're recording this, too many speakers announced, but like Kevin will be out there, and Kevin King, and then of course Gary V. Like, I would pay this money just to go see Gary V, because I'm such a Gary V fanboy.
Yeah, same, yeah.
But that'll give you guys an idea of how hard we're trying to go with this. Our musical guest is Nelly, for us 90s and 2000s kids, and that should mean something a little bit. So like we're trying to go really big on this. And
you upgraded over Mark McGrath.
There we go. Yeah, it was like, well, we start with Mark McGrath, and like, hey, what other big celebrities can we from the old school? You kind of see what the what the age group of the executives that Helium said are, by who we pick for the musical guest.
Yeah, that's cool, and that's expected to be a pretty big event from what I understand. Like 2,000 sellers is kind of what you're expecting.
We're targeting 2,000 to 3,000. And you know this, but networking is just so important. And so like we're like, hey, the goal of this, we want people to get together and make lifelong friends and everything. Well, that's why we got to bring a Gary V. Like if you build it, they will come. So like, we wanted to make an event where it's the most Amazon sellers who have ever gotten together ever, and so that they can interact. And like me, a Prosper Show, I met some people there at the Brandon Young's Top Golf party.
Yep.
There's a group of us who used to be in this group called Zon Squad or something like that.
Yeah.
The old mastermind. Yep. And it was like, I've literally kept in contact with these people for like 6 years, and we just met like at this conference, Zon Squad Live in Chicago. And from that one conference, that kind of like changed my entire path in this space from there, due to the networking I did and just what I learned. So like, guys, not just Sell and Scale. I mean, maybe you live somewhere else in Europe and you can't come to Sell and Scale for whatever reason.
Yep.
There's events all over the world. Just find these even local meetups. Go to
Yeah.
it, network, guys. It's great.
Yeah, I agree. It's I think one of the best things you could do in this space is form face-to-face
Yeah.
relationships with people. Um, you know, people will trust you when they get to know you and meet you face to face. They'll start sharing what their products are, and you can really actually share what's really working, what's happening for you, and learn from others. Also, great opportunity to, I saw Z for the first time at Prosper. Then I heard really good things. Then I got introduced to them. Now I'm going to be talking to them. Right? There's opportunities also to meet,
Yep.
vendors and companies and network, and highly recommend face-to-face events. And the truth is that, Amazing used to put on this really big event, but I haven't seen that in the last year or two. And there's definitely sort of this void of this really sort of big event that probably is going to appeal to, I would imagine, from what I understand.
That was where I met you for the first time in
Yeah.
person, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken.
Yes.
At one of those.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I, from what I understand about this event, there's going to be a few different tracks for kind of more advanced sellers and then more beginner sellers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there should be something for everybody. There's even Zumba class in the morning with me.
Oh,
Just
is that with
we
you?
want to do something completely different.
Are we putting that on? Are we bringing out the sock, the hand
We,
sock?
we're probably bringing out the crazy socks. We're bringing them out of retirement. Now, I said I've got 5 months to get back into Zumba shape. I've gained so much weight during COVID, it's ridiculous. But yeah, there'll be Zumba there. There'll be different tracks. There'll be, like Walmart presentations. There'll be Shopify presentations, off marketing. It's not like your typical, oh, this is just what I see in the online, webinars and things like
Right.
that. We want it to be completely different. So guys, if you're interested in going, h10.me/S3 has some data there, but I would love to meet y'all in person at that event.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity, and Vegas is always fun. And the world has kind of opened up more this year.
Finally, knock on wood. You say that now, some new variant's gonna come out or something.
Yes. In fact, I got COVID at Prosper, but
this last Prosper.
This last Prosper, yeah.
Yeah, I know the previous Prosper was like a super spreader event. Everybody got COVID at that one.
I didn't get it there, but I got it last one. It wasn't terrible. And then I actually went out to Shop Talk, another pretty big event, more focused on retail and D2C, but pretty cool event too. So it's nice to see face-to-face events. And again, you mentioned this. I went to a mastermind in Cabo in 2016, and still talk to the people that I met there. And you spend a few days together, you can really form solid relationships that will you accelerate the level of the relationship in a few days of kind of hanging out together and eating, drinking, having fun, learning together, versus what you could do in a year of knowing somebody on just from a Facebook group. So super cool that Helium is putting this on, and it sounds like it's going to be a big event. Want to touch lastly on like what's coming from your perspective, like from Helium. What are we going to see more of? Is there are we going to see more things related to outside traffic? Like what can sellers kind of expect that's in the Helium labs? There used to be a thing called labs, right? I think with Helium.
Well, we've been in the lab. So like for the last year or so, we've been kind of like focusing on a lot of stuff that maybe most people don't see, or they do, but it's like, like we upgraded the UI of almost all of our tools. And that's not like a one day task. That took months to do, because when you've just been coding and layer on layer on layer, each iteration is all based on this original code, and now we have to like completely redo it. Like, oh my god, that took forever. So like if you haven't used Magnet or Cerebro or things like that in a few years, you wouldn't even recognize it now. But there's two major things that we're going to be focused on. One is kind of like international. Like we've tried to expand to all the marketplaces. I think next is probably UAE for us. We're in Australia now, Japan. The Chrome extension, if you hit the settings, you can actually change the language, not of the marketplace, but like, where you see the menus in and everything. So we have Chinese, Chinese, Italian, German, and Spanish and English now. Soon you're going to see a lot of our tools in those other languages too, because whether you sell in America or not, if sometimes it's always easier to do it in your native tongue. If
Yep.
you might be Italian and selling in USA, well, you probably want to see your menus in Italian. So we're working on that. And then now we're going to go back to kind of like the basics where, all right, we got a lot of the pretty and foo-foo stuff out of the way. Let's go back to what Helium 10 is known for, with always like seemingly like, what, Helium 10 came out with that last week and this next week. So like
Right.
there's going to be so much cool features and things that are going to help you just on the day-to-day, be it incorporating your business reports, like your, page impressions and stuff, which wasn't available in the API until it is
Right.
now.
Yes.
Putting that in different tools so that you can be able to see, hey, how does that relate to my keyword tracker, or how does that relate to
Yeah.
my PPC?
And you should be really looking at your business reports now, because now you have the mobile data there and
Yep.
much truer conversion numbers, much more accurate conversion
Yep.
numbers.
Another new metric that Amazon
Yes.
made available to everybody. I love it.
Yes.
But yeah, we're going to come out with so many new tools and features in existing tools, and not just Amazon. We're off Amazon advertising is always big, so we're definitely looking at that. We've got this big kind of like customer advisory board now,
Mhm.
where we take sellers from different cohorts, like six-figure seller, hey, here's a merch by Amazon seller, here's a KDP, like, and then we just really hit them like, hey, what do you need to do your business better, or how can we make it easier? And then that's kind of like how we're able to develop all these new stuff that we have cooking in the kitchen right now.
Yeah, that's awesome, and that's a great way to listen to your audience, and what are they looking for, and iterate. So that's awesome. Bradley, is there anywhere you can direct people to go to learn more, to follow you? What are some of the best places, if they want to learn more, or maybe join the waitlist for the elite program, or where should people go?
Yeah, if you want to join the waitlist for that, helium10.com/elite. Obviously, you can see me in the Helium 10 members Facebook group and our YouTube. We came out with a lot of new shows on YouTube. We're trying to do like more educational, but with the entertainment, as well,
Yeah.
kind of like Project X was. So guys, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Helium 10. Serious Sellers podcast. Obviously, we always have a lot of great. It's actually time to you haven't been on in a year or so, so we got to bring you back to that. And then now we have for you German speakers, we have Serious Sellers podcast auf Deutsch. Hosted
nice.
by, I'm not a German speaker, that's about all I can say in German, but look that up. And then also Helium 10 or Serious Sellers podcast in Espanol is also, you can search for that. So we have it in Spanish. So yeah, we're in a lot of places, and just make sure to follow us. And we always try and have something educational for you guys, so you can learn. It's not always just like Helium 10 sales pitch fest. No, we just love talking Amazon about.
And I think that's one of the things. The thing that really took Helium 10 to kind of the next level from a lot of the other tools was how much in the forefront you guys are with putting out content, the podcast, and trying to educate sellers on the Maldives launch, right? And like all these things out there, the Project X that you guys are doing to educate sellers, I think is pretty huge, and why besides some great tools, why Helium 10 is kind of really like accelerated in terms of the last few years, as to me being like the market leader in the space. So great having you on. Great seeing you at Prosper, recently connecting. Make sure you're following Bradley and in the Helium 10 group to stay up to date on everything that he's doing. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. We'll see you later.